Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Donna Jean Plant, and I'm the Executive Director at SAAGNY. Today, we are presenting Secret to Coming Out Stronger Out of COVID-19 with Sue Bulut. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I will bring them up at the end of the presentation. There are also two documents in the handouts portion of the control panel that Sue will be using during the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and will be available for future viewing. Each of you will receive a link to the recording in the next day or so to share with colleagues. Now, without further ado, we turn the time over to Sue.
Okay, hi. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you for coming to this webinar. I was very excited to talk to Paul in the first place about doing this because I really wanted to share my past many years of experience with crises and recessions. So before we start, I would like to tell you that in my 23-year career of business coaching, what I have learned is that webinars and seminars really don't work by themselves if there is no interaction. So although I will talk today, you will listen, but I encourage you to note your questions so that we can address them. Otherwise, I don't want to get you be bored here. I really want you to pay attention. So I would like a 1 second from you to start my recording as well. Yes, all right. So, okay. So the second thing I would like to tell you is that please set aside your phones and get something to write on. Get a notebook, a journal, or a piece of paper because I'm going to talk about many things today. And I would really like you to take notes on those things. I would like you to brainstorm with me when I'm talking about all these things. So a little bit of information about myself is that I am of Turkish origin, as you can tell from my accent. I wasn't born and raised in the US. I was born in Turkey, and I technical university, and then I did my MBA there. Then the first time I came to United States was I went to California to start my business coaching training. It took me 3 years. And when I was talking to Paul about this and then Donna Jean about this webinar, I also wanted to talk to you about how it affected me being connected to US from such a far country. So I actually think that physical distances don't matter all that much when you have minds and hearts connected, because what happened is my father always worked in American companies in the US, in Turkey when I was little. And then we had many friends, American friends, and I learned how to speak English when I was in elementary school. Then I was watching American movies to, improve my English with subtitles. And I was always marveled about the innovation mind I saw there. So I studied mechanical engineering, and I found out that I am an innovative person myself as well. So I became one of the first business coaches in the world, in the sense of how consulting transformed to coaching, in that sense. So what I do right now is that I um, uh, go on coaching small businesses, small business owners, as well as I mentor startups, and I act as an entrepreneur in residence with Dival company. Dival was one of my former clients, by the way. So there are some similarities in two cultures, and since we are in now a global pandemic, I want to give you some insights on how we can really see ourselves in the mirror of others. So Turkey really acted. Uh, Turkey is one of the best countries who acted very well, and reacted and responded, actually responded very well to this pandemic. Why? Because in Turkey, crisis is the name of the game of life. Recession is the name of the business game in Turkey. So they are so used to responding. So they are so ready and prepared to responding to crisis, because we are never free of crisis in Turkey. I built a business for 20 years, both in Turkey and in the US. So that's why I had many experiences with recessions. But what I'm going to tell you, the first thing I want to tell you is that in this country, maybe we don't have this habit, let's say, this training, this being forced to really be ready for frequent crisis, but we have something else instead, which many countries don't have. We have in the United States, which attracted me to come here in the first place, is the innovative mind. We don't wait the outer circumstances force us to change. We actually derive change in the world, So uh, here, I'm an US citizen now, so I consider myself a Turkish American. So what happened is, the first Americans who came here, the colonists, they were the symbol of change and responding very well, strongly to adversity. That's why I want to start with Franklin Roosevelt's quote, which he used to quote. This is actually an African proverb I found out later, but Roosevelt loved this one, obviously, because it shows us, it just actually reminds us our true values in this country. I don't know if you relate to this, but I'm going to talk to you today about uh, how to fight back to the best of my knowledge. And I believe so much in this other quote that goes like this: something that doesn't kill you will make you stronger. So that's what I believe. And let's start with the innovation. Innovation is two types. See, I Steve Jobs is one of my icons, and he said that there is an innovation with capital I, and there is an innovation with small caps I. The innovation on the left you see is the bigger one, which really transforms the way we live. And it just envisions and brings life something that wasn't existing. The other innovation is actually what we can exercise on a daily basis. And Steve Jobs says, um, great artists, um, he says, great artists, good artists copy, great artists steal, he says. What still, you see this iPhone charger cable here, which can detach from the plug. He sold this in a supermarket when he was looking at a Japanese slow rice cooker. Japanese had this idea first to detach, because when somebody trips, it can detach quickly and then nobody gets hurt. So this was the another example is what Ray Kroc introduced to fast food world, is that fries, the shovel they use to not waste fries. He designed this shovel. So this is an innovation, but it didn't disrupt the world, but it actually made a difference. It saved lots of waste and cost um, uh, for McDonald's, and others benefited from it as well. So, but what happens? Why can we not stay in the innovation mind all the time? Because we have two traps that we fall into when there is a, a crisis like the pandemic we're going through right now. Um, One is we try to control everything, which is being a control thing. Total. Why I say total independency? We think that we can control if we focus enough, and if we um, attend to everything enough. We think that we can control everything in our lives, like everything to go better. We can make everything to go better. Maybe there are some advice about it, but I never seen something like that happening all the time, because there are so many things that we cannot control. And on the other extreme, we can be paralyzed, thinking that we are totally dependent on what's going on around us. We are not really um, taking advantage of our inner strength. So the best one, the best one is in the being in the balance, being at peace. So we call this interdependency. Um, why we need to go in this state is because uh, either being a control freak or being paralyzed makes us anxious, and anxiety clouds our minds. That's why I chose this image here. It really, being anxious really clouds our mind. And I don't know if you heard this expression. A mind only works. A mind is like a parachute. They both work when they are open. It says so. Um, so really, we can contemplate on this. I'm inviting you to contemplate on this, and I'm going to give you a perspective on why this COVID-19 might not be the worst thing that's happening to us. This illustration is from one of the books I love, um, and it's called The One Thing. It talks about focus, and it talks about how to really put our life into perspective. So you see, there are 4 crystal balls here, and there's one rubber ball. The rubber ball is our work because it bounces back, even if we make mistakes and lose stuff. But health, our family, our friends, and our inner mastery, inner work, if they are shattered once, if they are neglected for too long, they just shattered, and they don't come back. So we really need to um, look at our life and see if there are reasons stop worrying for stopping worrying. And I want to give you this little piece that it is said that there is no such thing as multitasking, uh, and we create wonderful things when we can focus actually on one thing. So this is the first thing. I'm inviting you to remember your core values in this country. The first Americans, the colonists, what they made the constitution of this country. And so we can really hold on to them to really survive and thrive this crisis. Michael Gerber is my first business teacher, business guru that I work with him closely since 1997 until about 2005, 2008. Um, this is what I learned. The first thing I learned from him. By the way, I recommend his book, The E-Myth Revisited, to you highly, because in under these circumstances that we are in, it will come very handy for you when you're managing your businesses. So he says, I can visualize a life without work, but I can't think of a business without life in it. So he taught us that a business or our work should be the means to really take care of the other four crystal balls, and have peace of mind instead of giving us anxiety. So today you have a choice. I'm inviting you to take action. Maybe you heard some of this stuff I'm going to talk about, or I'm talking about before, but what kind of action did you take? So I'm inviting you to make a choice and take an action, but I'm inviting you to take a different action this time. Really thinking out of the box, maybe disrupt your own way of doing business and looking at life. So these ladies on the right, they are the founders of Spoon University. It's an innovation. When you're at peace, innovations and inspirations come. And through my whole life, I have seen that when I can submit myself to the circumstances I'm in and never lose hope, then inspirations come, because everyone has some natural born gifts inside of them. We will talk about them in a little bit. So what they do, these ladies, they teach university students how to feed themselves and how to cook healthily. They have places in colleges, so it's a different business model. Let's. I was going to do a poll with you, but unfortunately, it's not working at this moment, and we don't have much time. So, as you can see, I'm trying to talk very fast. Um, all right. We need to talk about what's going to happen in the economy in the coming months. We are still at home, keeping the social distancing. And what they say is that the economy will take a U-shape recovery. I don't know if you know what that means. I'm sure you're very much involved in listening to all experts and people are saying. But what I have learned is that there's a V-shaped economy recovery, which is which is a very sharp deep, and then a very sharp quick up. But this time, as the longer we stay home, the slower the economy will recover. I'm sure you know that by now as well. So we are looking at a U-shaped recovery. This, in a way, will not shock us. We will get used to it, and we will have time to strategically plan for surviving and thriving. So, what is the difference between, or what connects surviving and thriving? is that to survive, we need to get the full picture. To thrive, we need to paint a full picture for ourselves in our own situation. So let me just go back for a little bit. I want to ask you a question. All right. Um, I want to ask you a question. What makes a business vulnerable in the face of adversity or crisis? Um, when you look at your own lives, pandemics are not the only time where our business life or our normal life is interrupted. Me, for example, I had some health problems in the past. I had a major car accident. I had contracted a virus um, uh, in my lungs when I was in university. I couldn't do anything for 6 months. I had to heal and I had to stay in the hospital. And then there were other economic recessions. When the time I was running my business, also in Turkey, there was earthquake, and there were many pandemics in throughout human history. There were many recessions in U.S. and in the world. The last biggest one was in 2008, 2009. Of course, when there is a recession, we can still go out and try to do stuff. But with a pandemic, no. But you see, I I want to ask you this: what would you say to somebody who does the same exact mistakes over and over? So look at the governments of the world. How can they not get any um, lesson from past pandemics? And we are so everyone is so not unprepared for this. Maybe Germany and Turkey acted quickly, but they were not prepared in the first place. They were not expecting this. But I think we are doing okay. We are taking it every day, day by day. So hopefully we'll go through this. But what does a business? What makes a business vulnerable? What makes small businesses suffer so much right now in the face of this adversity? Another question comes to mind: do we need a pandemic or a recession for failure? So here's uh, age-old um, statistics I want to give you. The businesses that start in their start, 50% of them fail in the first year. This is a all-time statistics, and only 4% can make it prosperously beyond 10 years. There is a tech startup craze right now, but when you look at the venture capital association statistics, 90% of them are failing. So all these millions of dollars in funding, they are going down the drain. Why? Because there is a very fundamental reason why businesses are failing, and is I want to give you this slide. So many people, when they go into business, they think that making or selling the product of the business is equal of having a business. Actually, they are not equal. A technician creates a job for themselves when they start their own businesses if they are not building a business that sells or makes the product. So this is being an entrepreneur is a totally different mindset. What kind of different mindset is when you ask yourself, are you a promotional technician or are you a promotional entrepreneur? Why? Because to thrive, to survive, a master technician can survive. Yes, but to survive and to go on thriving, you need to be an entrepreneur minded person. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner at this moment on this webinar right now or an entrepreneur. We need this entrepreneurial mindset, thinking, way of thinking to really thrive out of crisis. Today, my webinar will not be based necessarily on tactics, specific tactics. I'm sure you heard many other webinars on that. I want to take you to the core ideas, to core skills that will serve you in any kind of crisis, not only this pandemic. But you see, entrepreneurs are natural problem solvers. They always go into the problem solving mood. Um, Actually, they enjoy solving problems because building a business is not nothing more than solving many problems along the way when you're growing it. So since they are problem solvers, entrepreneurs are the ones who see opportunity when most see impossibility. So technicians, they are very important in a business as well. They live in the present. Their character is like this. They live in the present, don't want to hear about lofty goals, too busy for that, and they are the doers. So, but I want to give you now another connection. Not one person is 100% entrepreneur and one person, another one is 100% technician. These mindsets, these approaches to seeing things around us, registering things around us, is in us, both of them. But when we cannot use them in balance, we're coming to balance again. When we cannot use them in the balance, the technicians, the technician inside of us, when he or she takes over, then we are really having a problem because it just wants to stay in his or her comfort zone, which is they want to do, or it wants us to do what we are used to doing instead of opening ourselves to change. Um, so they do all the tactical stuff, which are very, very important, like doing the price calculations and quotes, packing samples and mailing and stuff like that. But they pressure us not to do the strategic work that needs to be done to move us forward. So entrepreneurs, what an entrepreneur thinks that how are my target markets need changing? What's my vision about my business or division or product group? What would my niche market be? So these are the questions an entrepreneur asks, and when they come up with strategic plans, then technicians step in and make them a reality, working together. So this is uh, a point of view, a very if you can make it a habit, entrepreneurial thinking, it's a very saving point of view for surviving and then thriving. So I want to give you this good doctor. Do you remember when there is a difficult case, how they just regroup and go to their room and all of them sit down together, put the books on the table, spread them, and lose themselves in the books. They get lost in the books. They focus crazily, and they consult each other. They consult, which is, I'm saying, they consume any kind of resource they find to really solve that problem. So this is an entrepreneur character. So actually, the good doctor is a medical entrepreneur in that sense, and the team there, they are the medical entrepreneurs. So what does an entrepreneur, which tool helps an entrepreneur the most is actually strategic planning comes to mind in the first place. Strategic planning, the story goes, how the story goes, maybe you heard this story. There are two lumberjacks. Excuse me my English if I not pronounce some words correctly, or maybe I might use some words misplaced. But I think the people who cut the trees and sell them, they are called lumberjacks, right? So there are two lumberjacks. They go out to the woods and cut the trees every day, and one of them cuts much more trees in numbers than the other one, but the other one who cuts less trees works more than the one who cuts more trees. Whereas he's also a little jealous because the one who cuts more trees, um, he doesn't work all the time. He just takes his breaks, has lunch, and talks on the phone with his wife or uh, his friends. So the other one is jealous, and then after a while, he asks him, "What? How come when he is not working as much as he does, he can actually cut this much of trees?" And the answer the other one gives him is that when you see me taking breaks, I was always sharpening my axe. You know, so strategic planning is not having a break, or is not something that is time wasted, time spent in vain. Strategic planning regroups our brain and focuses us, because researchers say that um, human brain cannot focus beyond 3 months. We cannot make plans beyond 90 days. This is our brain doesn't relate to goals, or cannot focus like focusing in the sense of really concentrating beyond 90 days. So why there is a practice in corporations for 4 quarters planning? That's why, because of 90-day rule. So I'm inviting you to participate in a very short exercise with me right now, and please take your piece of papers and pens, and I will give you 1 minute, and I'm asking you this question: what would you do if you knew somehow, if you got the intelligence, if you got the news of this pandemic back in last August? What precautions would you take if you knew that this pandemic will be here? If you knew this in last August, I'm giving you 1 minute to write down your ideas of what kind of precautions you would take, what kind of um, visions you would have, what kind of maybe savings you would do. You know, actually, what makes us anxious the most, as we all know, is that financial worries. But if we had some liquid money set aside just for the rainy days, uh, that would make us go 90 days, sorry, 9 months or to a year, we wouldn't be worried. Most small business owners, if they did these strategic plannings before, and if they prepared their companies, no matter how they small, because small businesses are not failing because they are small. Small businesses are failing because the owners are not thinking big enough. Um, so I believe it's a business owner's responsibility to take care of the financial health of the company and take care of the employees. It's a one of the biggest responsibility. But if we don't have the necessary tools, if we are not aware of those, and we are not aware of the entrepreneurial thinking, entrepreneurial skills, we cannot improve on them. But they are in us, actually. but we cannot tap on that. So I don't know if this um, um, exercise gave you a little bit of a perspective. If you did this strategic planning beforehand, if this was a habit of you, and if you were really expecting something could happen in any given year, how can I be prepared? But we are not. We are humans. Even the governments cannot be prepared because humans, we don't want to think about the bad stuff. We always want everything to go uh, very well, but they're not going to go very well. I hope for me myself as well. I'm not perfect on this one, but I'm hoping that we get our lessons, and for the rest of our lives we can really be prepared, because pandemics and recessions and crises, and they will come back, keep coming back. They will keep coming back. So here's a strategic plan template. I also sent to Donna Jean, um, uh, that I want to share with you. This is a strategic plan template that is one page. On one page, you see everything about your business, or everything, every important thing about your business on one page. This is an open source tool that we business coaches get from Vern Harnish. He's a guru, a business guru, and he's the author of the book Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. I highly recommend this book as well. So when you're starting to do the strategic plan, of course, the first thing we need to do is the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is assessing the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. There is a trap when we're doing SWOT analysis, and that is um, being too general. But we actually need to think about our uh, very current, most current circumstances. We can talk about how to do SWOT analysis in a very, very longer session, but I want to give you one very important piece of it. So you are seeing resources at the bottom of my slide. There are 5 resources every business uses, and every person actually in their life uses to continue or grow the business. There is know-how. This is a first resource we use. And you can ask yourself, what are my strengths in terms of know-how, in the area of know-how? What are the strengths of my business and or my department, or me as a professional? What are my strengths in the know-how area? Um, what The second thing is people. When you are running a department, or when you're working with a group of people, when you're running a business, there are people, there's a team. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of this team? Money, this is capital. Do we have enough money to carry out? And what are the strengths and weaknesses in the financial area? So facilities and equipment. And then the fifth one is time. Do we have enough time to do what we want to do, what we wish to do, or what we need to do? How are we spending our time? There is only 176 hours in a week. There's not much actually. So focusing is really important. And when you come out of a strategic planning session, which I do with my clients over 2 days, 3 hours. When you come out of this, you will uh, have one very important, single most important uh, strategic focus in your hands. You should have. We cannot solve everything at the same time. And again, Steve Jobs says our biggest strength is not is as well as knowing how to focus on one single most important thing in the business. As well as this, there's another thing that our biggest strength is saying no to 1,000 other things that seem good to do. So my the question I want to give you today is, what is the biggest opportunity in front of you, or what is the biggest problem you need to solve so that you will have a big relief and open to opportunities right now. So this is the goal of a strategic planning. And with the strengths part, I want to give you something again. We need to go to our core, and I want to give you 1 minute again for our second exercise for today, second and last exercise. I want to make you, or I want to invite you to start a list of your core capabilities, which maybe you even don't realize that you have them, or they are your core capabilities. So the core capabilities are, and I'm going to give you an example of how we use this in the business life. The core capabilities, let's first do the exercise. Core capabilities is something like this. What are the things that I do best and natural in my daily life? What am I skillful at naturally in my home life? What do people ask from me, ask help from me? What is the area, or what is the topic that people ask help from me the most? What is the thing that I love doing, and when I do it, I lose myself? Uh, what are those things that I love doing and I lose myself when I'm doing them? What are my biggest strengths? What are my natural skills when I'm doing my job? What actually, what upsets me seeing in other people in terms of lack of skills, because it's also a mirror telling you your best skills. But of course, on the other hand, we shouldn't expect other people to have our skills, but we don't realize that sometimes. Um, and it might even be that sometimes you have that natural skill that you are even as much as skillful as the professionals of those skills. Like for example, I know somebody who is very skillful at being a handyman, repairing things around the house. But he is just in a construction business. Well, not construction, but he is kitchen and bath cabinets kind of business. But it's just selling like a type of thing. But he didn't realize that this was a skill. Actually, here's an example about the pandemic. In California, an engineering company, they looked at their core skills, and they started um, getting broken ventilators from hospitals and repairing some of them, which don't require a very much technical detail. But since they are engineering company, um, um, they got the manuals of the ventilators, and they fixed some of them. This was a story I read. Another core capabilities, how we use them in our business, is a nice story about one of my former clients. They are a short manufacturer, and they do um, private labeling. They just um, manufacture shorts for brands. and they export this. They were in a very uh, competitive market. This is a Turkish company, by the way, that also has offices in the US, um, in Canada, and in other European countries. But they were, in the first place, they were, when we were working with them, they were exporting to Europe, but there was a huge competition. So we were doing these strategic planning sessions and marketing analysis and blue ocean marketing, all the tools we need, we were consuming, and they kept coming to this core capability that they had this design skill. But how can you just use your design skill with the private labeling, because all the designs are being given to you by your clients and they don't need your ideas. Well, it turns out that some clients actually loved these ideas. And what we did is not only offering this as an extra service, because they were really coming and they were actually uh, interrupting the design beliefs of their clients, and they were offering them, they were suggesting them much better ones with their own brands. So, but um, of course, some cultures are still not open to that. So we started thinking about what kind of countries in Europe could be really have a design aesthetics, more of a design and aesthetics in their culture. And then we saw that contrary to, they were heavily or mostly focusing on exporting to Germany, Belgium, the mid European countries. And then what we found out, what they found out, and we found out together, is that Northern European countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they are so into design, and oh, unbelievable. They were doing business in Alibaba.com. I showed them how to do some prospecting on LinkedIn, and they started going to those countries, and their leads increased unbelievably from those countries, and their orders also spread throughout the year, not only to some certain months. So the owner of this company had this beautiful designing skill and designing eye, so I don't know if while I was talking, were you doing your list? But I encourage you to do come up with a list as long as you can. Even write down small ones or stupid looking ones. For a restaurant owner, for example. So we know that restaurants are in trouble, in some trouble right now, but there are opportunities. Um, if they have this public speaking skills, if they have this maybe copywriting skills, which they never use in their maybe so far they never use, they could start digital marketing. So this might be very obvious, but it is not obvious when you are having the problem, when you're having the adversity by yourself. So I am inviting you, encouraging you to sit down some time after we hang up with this webinar and do this. So I want to move on because there's one more topic I want to talk to you about. Secret to Thriving. I'm recommending you another book, Built to Last. It's one of the all-time unbelievable books. And it talks about the companies with 40, 50, 100-year background. Think about 100-year company like Hershey's, like a Crayola. They must have seen so many crises, pandemics, and all this stuff. But they are still here. And what this book gives us on the core is that if you know your core capabilities, your core values, your core purpose, uh, as a business owner, as a department manager, or as the consultant minded distributor, which I think this is like an entrepreneurial mindset. If you can really be aware of your core capabilities, which are given to us at birth, so that only then we something that doesn't kill us can make us stronger. Because all the problems, they will come back, and they will, keep coming in different forms, but we can really keep getting stronger through them. And what here this yin yang tells us is that preserve your core values, hold on to them very, like, just it is the time to remember and tap into that right now. So preserve them and change all the operating practices, goals, and strategies over time, and keep changing them, and observing what's going on around us, being interdependent, remember, and changing them. So it can really turn into a fun game, like a very pleasant game, if we can do this. So here's another um, choice we are now we are in front of. Do you want to be a technician who is worried all the time, or do you want to be an entrepreneur with an open mind and solving problems, seeing opportunities? These are two different ways of looking at life, actually. So I'm inviting you to take an action, but this is not like being busy all the time. I'm inviting you to take an action as an entrepreneurial action. Um, so my last topic is a little bit of marketing. Uh, we can still do some segmentation on our marketing. United States is a very different marketplace from the rest of the world. In Turkey, in Germany, even in Canada, people, when they come to US in the first place to sell stuff, they they are a little puzzled, because US marketplace is like a patchwork. Um, it consists of little markets put together, small markets, small unique markets put together. So segmentation and knowing about demographics and psychographics, it really helps to see where our niche market and where we can really be strong and make the most profit. So what gives us profit sustainability in any kind of economic circumstances is providing value. American Marketing Association, I found this on their one of their publications. They say profit sustainability is achieved by offering customers value continuously. So what is value? Can we a little bit of move away from being product oriented or product focused to value focused? Providing, instead of providing products to the clients, how can we provide value to them? Providing value brings us a little bit more work, but this is a more brain work, so to speak. But it is much more rewarding in the end. I can assure you this. This is what I have learned from all my masters and teachers in business all throughout. It never changes. Product versus value is all-time debate, actually. So what happens with products and services? They are either pain relievers or gain creators, but customers don't buy the products. Actually, they buy solutions to more gains, or solutions to their pains. It's the two very famous examples for that is that people don't buy perfumes, they buy attractiveness. And the other example is that people don't buy drills, they buy 3/4 inch holes, if I'm correctly saying. So what is the value people are buying when they are buying the promotional products from us? So to um, be able to give the value, especially at this time when there is this pandemic, we need to see, we need to be able to let go, detach from the needs that we are used to fulfilling, and really open our eyes to see the new needs that we must recognize and adapt at this moment. One example I want to give you is, with your permission, I want to do a little bit of advertising of the journals. The need that arises, actually, but this, of course, can be used with other promotional products as well. It's just the positioning of the products. We know that work at home kits are on demand right now, but there might be some more projects that the brands, your clients, the brands uh, cannot focus on by themselves right now, but you can actually bring their attention. Brands need more sophisticated projects to stay connected with their audience in the absence of trade shows and events. I'm I'm not sure. I I'm almost sure that everyone would um, agree with me on this one. So we came with a journal idea. We came actually more, a few journal ideas on that, so that companies can really keep in touch with the positive association of this their brand in this negative times, and they can stay connected, and they can strengthen their emotional bond with their clients and employees. Um, I actually was gonna tell you a case study from the Silent Salesman. This is a nice book I have found recently on promotional products. Um, there are uh, many case studies, but I'm seeing that we are running out of time, so I wanna start wrapping up. So there is two alternatives. We can be product based with low profits, or we can be value based, high profits. Um, this, of course, today, at this, as we are doing this webinar, I am sure most of the distributors on this call, they are very busy with masks, selling masks and PPEs. They're trying to fulfill the request. But promotional products industry is a beautiful one. Is a beautiful one. Just like in that book, it's a silent salesman. And I think brands need promotional product projects, not the products, the concepts, promotional product concepts with value, with boosting brand engagement, and realize with the promotional products. But I think your clients would need more promotional concepts than just promotional products at this time. So I'm again inviting you to take action in this point of view. One last thing about people is Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. All of the strategy we talked about so far really doesn't mean anything if you and your people cannot unite and be in the same business-minded attitude. These are the challenges of teams. Top challenges, low problem. Lack of unity is actually the first one that is very um, hindering. Um, Top three employee motivators, which this one is the I found this on Harvard Business Review. This is a research done by Facebook in 2018. nowadays employees are looking for career community and cause, which is another way of saying value. So united we stand, divided we fall. It's really time to really get together and uh, connect and cooperate our minds and hearts together to really thrive out of this. This is the GE strategy, early 80s. They said that we need to involve everyone in the game, hearts and minds of everyone. And one last thing is my favorite band, Bon Jovi. I was many years ago. I was watching videos about them, and John Bon Jovi is a businessman. Actually, he runs. He says that I'm the CEO of this band, and I run this band as like a company. And they asked them, how could you stay together so long? And he said that I guess we like each other. You know, this was the only thing he said. I guess we like each other. We like spending time with each other. We like sitting down, having conversations, brainstorming. We like doing things with each other, he said. So I want to leave you with this. We talked about being anxious versus at peace, being a technician versus an entrepreneur, being product based versus value based. And my last slide is about again. I started with Roosevelt. I wanna finish with Roosevelt. He says, "Men are not prisoners of fate, but prisoners of their own minds." That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much. If you have questions, I can answer them.
Sue, thank you so much. This was very informative. I don't see any questions. So I'm going to thank you, Sue, for being here. Thank you for everyone who joined us. We appreciate you being here. These webinars are brought to you by the following regionals: CPPA, NEPA, PAPA, TRASA, and SAAGNY. Please visit SAAGNY.org for our full calendar of webinars. New webinars and virtual events are being added daily. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.